Have you ever reached into your pocket, pulled out a handful of loose change, and thought nothing of it? Most people don't. They see a quarter as just 25 cents. Something you use for a vending machine, a parking meter, or maybe it just ends up forgotten in a jar on your dresser. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking quarters could be worth not hundreds, not thousands, but potentially life-changing money? What if the very coin you used to buy a soda last week could have been worth more than a luxury car today? We are diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in modern American history, the 2007 Washington State Quarter, and why collectors are obsessed with a specific version of this coin that could be worth far more than its face value. But before you scroll away or assume this is just another internet myth, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for, how to identify rare errors, and why some quarters have shocked the collecting world with their value. Let's start with the basics. In 1999, the United States launched the 50-state quarters program. It quickly became one of the most successful coin programs in history. Each year, 5 states were honored with their own unique quarter design. By the time 2007 rolled around, Americans were already used to seeing new designs in their pocket change. The 2007 Washington State Quarter was one of those releases. On the back, it features a salmon leaping over the waters of the Pacific Northwest with the iconic outline of Mount Rainier in the background. It's a beautiful design, representing the natural beauty and heritage of Washington. Millions upon millions of these coins were minted, which is exactly why most people assume they are completely worthless beyond 25 cents. And that is where things get interesting, because in the world of coin collecting, value is not about how many were made, it is about how many are rare, and rarity often comes from something going wrong. Yes, you heard that right. Mistakes, errors, imperfections, the very things that are supposed to be prevented during minting are sometimes the exact reason a coin becomes incredibly valuable. So what kind of error are we talking about with the 2007 Washington Quarter? There are a few that collectors are constantly hunting for. One of the most talked about is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating a visible doubling effect on letters or design elements. Imagine looking closely at the word Liberty or In God We Trust and seeing a shadow or duplicate impression. To the average person, it might look like a defect, but to a collector, it could be a jackpot. Another rare possibility is an off-center strike. This is exactly what it sounds like. The coin design is not perfectly centered, leaving part of the blank metal visible. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can be. Then there are die cracks and die breaks. These occur when the equipment used to strike the coin begins to wear out or crack. The result is raised lines or unusual shapes appearing on the coin. Again, something that looks like damage could actually be a hidden treasure. But here is where things get even more exciting. There are reports and discussions in the collecting community about extremely rare error combinations, coins that have multiple striking issues, unusual finishes, or unique characteristics that make them one of a kind. These are the coins that can reach extraordinary values at auction. Now let's address the big question: is there really a 2007 quarter worth $1 million? The honest answer is this: there is no widely confirmed record of a standard 2007 Washington Quarter selling for a full $1 million, but that does not mean it is impossible for a coin to reach extraordinary value under the right conditions. In the world of rare coins, value is driven by a few key factors: rarity, condition, demand, and story. If a coin is extremely rare, in near perfect condition, and has a unique and well-documented error, collectors may be willing to pay staggering amounts of money. There have been coins in history that sold for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, but those are usually extremely rare and well-documented pieces. What makes videos like this go viral is the idea that anyone could stumble upon one of these coins in everyday life, and while that possibility does exist, it is incredibly rare but not impossible, and that is what keeps people searching. So how do you actually check your 2007 quarter? First, look at the mint mark. The letter P indicates it was minted in Philadelphia. Next, examine the coin closely. Use a magnifying glass or even your phone camera. Look at the text, look at the edges, look at the design. Are there any unusual markings, any doubling, any misalignment, anything that looks out of place? Do not confuse normal wear and tear with mint error. Scratches, dents, and damage from circulation usually reduce value, but clean, clear, and consistent anomalies could indicate a real error. If you think you have found something unusual, do not rush to sell it online. The next step is authentication. Professional grading services exist to verify and evaluate coins. They can determine whether your coin is a genuine error and assign it a grade based on its condition. This is critical because without proper authentication, even a rare coin may not reach its full value. Now let's talk about why people are so fascinated with coins like this. It is not just about money, it is about the idea that history is literally in your hands. Every coin tells a story: where it was minted, what it represents, how it was used, and sometimes How it was accidentally transformed into something extraordinary there is also something deeply exciting about the hunt, the idea that treasure is not buried on a distant island, but sitting quietly in your pocket waiting to be discovered. That excitement is what drives collectors. It is what fuels late-night searches through coin jars, and it is what makes videos like this so captivating. But let's stay grounded for a moment. The reality is that most 2007 Washington quarters are worth exactly what they say, 25 cents. And that is perfectly fine, because the true value of coin collecting is not just in finding a rare piece, it is in the knowledge, the curiosity, and the appreciation of history. However, every once in a while, someone does find something extraordinary, a coin that slipped through the cracks, a mistake that turned into a masterpiece, a tiny piece of metal that carries a story worth far more than its weight. So the next time you hear the jingle of change in your pocket, pause for a second, take a closer look, because while the odds are small, they are not zero, and sometimes all it takes is one coin to change everything. If you found this video helpful, make sure to stay curious, stay observant, and never underestimate the value of the ordinary, because hidden inside the most common things can be the most uncommon opportunities. And who knows, your next quarter might not just be change, it might be the beginning of a story worth telling. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a handful of loose change, and unknowingly holding something that could change your entire life. Not a lottery ticket, not an investment portfolio, just a simple quarter. The kind you use for coffee, parking meters, or vending machines. Now imagine that same quarter being worth not 25 cents, but hundreds of thousands, even close to $1 million. Sounds impossible, right? Stay with me, because today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in modern American history, the 2006 quarter, and whether it could actually be your hidden ticket to serious money. Before we get into the hype, let's slow things down and understand what this coin really is. In 2006, the United States Mint was producing quarters as part of the 50-state quarters program and the Newer America the Beautiful series that followed. Millions upon millions of coins were minted in Philadelphia, which is what the P-Mint mark stands for. These coins were never meant to be rare. They were designed for everyday use, circulating through banks, stores, and pockets across the country. So how does something so common suddenly become valuable? The answer lies in something collectors obsess over: errors and condition. Not all coins are created equal. Even though machines produce them, mistakes happen. And sometimes, those mistakes turn ordinary coins into extraordinary collectibles. Let's talk about the 2006 quarter specifically. On the surface, it looks like any other coin. You have George Washington on the front, clean lines, standard design. On the back, depending on the state or design variation, you might see images representing different parts of American heritage. To most people, it is just another coin. But to a trained eye, certain rare features can turn this everyday item into something much more valuable. One of the most talked about possibilities is a mint error. This could include things like double die errors, where the design appears slightly duplicated, off-center strikes where the image is not aligned correctly, or even more dramatic issues like wrong planchet strikes where the coin was stamped on the wrong type of metal. These are not common. In fact, they are extremely rare. But when they do appear, collectors pay serious money. Now here is where the internet starts to exaggerate. You might have seen claims that a 2006 quarter is worth $1 million. That number grabs attention, and it is meant to. But the truth is more nuanced. A coin reaching that level of value would need to meet very strict criteria. It would have to be an extremely rare error verified by professional grading services, and in near-perfect condition. We are talking about coins that have never really been used, coins that look like they just came out of the mint. Condition matters more than most people realize. In the coin world, grading is everything. A small scratch, a little wear from being in circulation, even slight discoloration can dramatically reduce value. Coins are graded on a scale, and the highest grades are incredibly hard to achieve. Only a tiny fraction of coins ever reach those top levels. So when you hear about a coin selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, you are not just hearing about any coin. You are hearing about the absolute best example of a rare error, preserved in near-perfect condition, and verified by experts. But here is the exciting part. Rare coins have been found in everyday circulation before. People have discovered valuable coins in jars, old collections, and even pocket change. It does not happen often, but it does happen. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching. Let's bring this back to you. Think about all the places you might have loose change right now. Your car, your couch, a jar on your dresser, maybe even an old box from years ago. Most of the time, that change is just change. But every now and then, there is a chance, a very small chance, that something unusual is hiding in plain sight. If you are serious about checking your coins, you need to know what to look for. Start with the basics. Look at the date. Make sure it is 2006. Then check the mint mark. A small letter P indicates it was minted in Philadelphia. After that, examine the coin closely. Look for anything that seems off. Is the design doubled? Is it misaligned? Does the color or metal look unusual? These could be signs of an error. But be careful. Not every odd-looking coin is valuable. Damage from everyday use can sometimes look like an error, but it is not the same thing. That is why professional verification is so important. If you think you have something special, the next step is to have it evaluated by a trusted grading service. Now let's talk about the history side, because this is not just about money. Coins are small pieces of history. Every quarter tells a story about the time it was made. The designs reflect American culture, important events, and national identity. When you hold a coin, you are holding a piece of that story. The 2006 quarters are part of that legacy. They represent a time when the United States was celebrating its states, its landmarks, and its history through everyday currency. That alone makes them interesting. And when you add the possibility of rare errors, they become even more fascinating. Collectors are not just chasing money. They are chasing rarity, history, and uniqueness. A rare coin is like a fingerprint. No two are exactly the same. And that is what drives demand. When something is both rare and desirable, its value can rise dramatically. So is the 2006 P quarter a guaranteed path to becoming a millionaire? No. That is the honest answer. The chances are extremely low. But is it possible that a rare version of this coin could be worth a significant amount of money? Yes, that is absolutely true. The key is knowledge. The more you understand what to look for, the better your chances of recognizing something valuable. Most people never take the time to look closely at their coins. They spend them without a second thought. But those who pay attention have a slight edge. And that brings us to the real message of this video. It is not about chasing unrealistic dreams. It is about awareness. It is about realizing that value can exist in unexpected places. Sometimes, the things we overlook the most are the ones that hold the most potential. So the next time you hear the sound of coins in your pocket, do not ignore it. Take a moment. Look at what you have. You might not find $1 million coin, but you might discover something interesting, something unique, something worth more than you expected. And even if you do not, you will have gained something just as valuable: knowledge. Because once you start looking at everyday objects with curiosity and attention, you begin to see the world differently. Now here is your challenge. Go find your loose change. Spread it out on a table. Take your time. Look at each coin carefully. Check the dates, the mint marks, the details. Train your eyes to notice the small things. Because in the world of coin collecting, the smallest detail can make the biggest difference. If you ever do find something unusual, do not rush to conclusions. Do your research. Compare it with known examples. And if it still seems special, get it checked by professionals. That is how real discoveries are made. At the end of the day, the story of the 2006 P quarter is not just about money. It is about possibility. It is about the idea that something ordinary can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you reach into your pocket, you will not just see loose change. You will see potential. You will see history. And you will see the chance, however small, that you might be holding something truly valuable. So keep your eyes open, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of something as simple as a coin, because sometimes the smallest things can make the biggest impact. Now the question is, are you ready to check your pocket change? Have you ever thought that the loose change sitting in your pocket right now could be worth a life-changing amount of money? Not a few extra dollars, not even 100, but potentially hundreds of thousands, or even close to $1 million. It sounds unbelievable. It sounds like something out of a movie, but today we are diving deep into the mysterious and fascinating world of the 2001 P quarter-dollar coin and why collectors across the United States are paying serious attention to it. Before you scroll away or dismiss this as just another internet myth. Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you actually looked at the coins in your pocket, not just glanced at them, but really looked closely? Because what I am about to reveal might completely change the way you see your everyday money forever. Let's start with the basics. In 2001, the United States Mint released several state quarters as part of the famous 50-state quarters program. This program ran from 1999 to 2008 and quickly became one of the most popular coin series in American history. Millions of Americans collected these coins. Kids filled up maps, adults stored rolls of quarters, and for most people, they were nothing more than a fun hobby. But hidden within those millions of coins were a few extremely rare variations that collectors now hunt for like treasure. One of those coins is the 2001 P quarter. The letter P stands for Philadelphia Mintone of the Main facilities where U.S. coins are produced. At first glance, a 2001 P quarter looks completely normal. It might feature designs like New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, or Kentucky, depending on the release. But here is where things start to get interesting. Not all coins are created equal. During the minting process, coins are struck using massive machines that press designs into metal blanks called planchets. This process is incredibly precise, but it is not perfect. Sometimes mistakes happen, and when those mistakes happen in just the right way, they can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. These are known as mint errors, and in the world of coin collecting, errors are where the real money is. We are talking about coins that were struck off center, coins that show doubling in the design, coins that were struck multiple times, or even coins that were made using the wrong dies altogether. Now imagine holding one of those rare error coins in your hand without even realizing it, spending it on a coffee, dropping it into a vending machine, or leaving it forgotten in a jar somewhere in your house. That is exactly what has happened to countless valuable coins over the years, and that is why this topic is so exciting, because there is still a chance, a small but real chance, that one of these rare 2001 P quarters is sitting in your possession right now. Let's talk about value. Most 2001 P quarters are worth exactly 25 cents. That is the reality, but certain rare versions, especially those with clear and dramatic mint errors in high-grade condition, have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In extremely rare cases, unique error coins from this era have reached astonishing prices at auction. We are talking about serious collectors competing against each other, driving prices higher and higher for coins that should not even exist. But here is the key detail most people miss: condition matters. A coin that is worn down and scratched will never reach high value even if it has a minor error. Collectors look for coins that are in near perfect condition, sharp details, clean surfaces, strong strikes. This is what separates a common coin from a collectible one. Now let's break down what you should actually look for in a 2001 P quarter. First, check the mint mark. You are looking for the letter P near George Washington's ponytail. Second, examine the design carefully. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers. This can appear as a shadow effect where the text looks slightly duplicated. Check if the coin is off-center. If the design is not perfectly aligned, it could be an error. Look for unusual textures or layers. Sometimes coins show signs of being struck multiple times. Pay attention to anything that looks strange or out of place. If something seems off, there is a reason. Now here is where things get really interesting. The world of coin collecting is not just about money, it is about history. Every coin tells a story. That 2001 P quarter you might be holding, it passed through countless hands. It moved through stores, gas stations, restaurants, and banks. It traveled across cities and states. It is a small piece of American history that has been quietly circulating for over 2 decades, and if it happens to be one of those rare error coins, it becomes more than just history. It becomes a hidden asset, something valuable that was overlooked by thousands of people before you. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you handled coins without paying attention? How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers simply because you did not know what to look for? This is why knowledge is powerful, because once you know what to look for, you start seeing things differently. Now let's address the big question: can a 2001 P quarter really make you a millionaire? The honest answer is this: it is extremely unlikely. $1,000,000 coins do exist, but they are incredibly rare and usually well documented. However, that does not mean your coins are worthless. Far from it. There are collectors out there willing to pay good money for the right coin, especially if it has a unique and verified error. And even if you never find a six-figure coin, the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovering something rare, that alone is worth something. But here is what separates people who succeed in this space from those who do not: attention to detail, patience, and the willingness to look closer than everyone else. Most people will never check their coins. They will continue to spend them without a second thought. But a small group of people, collectors, hunters, curious minds, they take the time to examine what others ignore, and sometimes that makes all the difference. Imagine this scenario: you are sitting at home, you grab a jar of coins, you start going through them one by one. At first it feels pointless, just a pile of change, but then you notice something unusual: a detail that does not look right, a letter that appears doubled, a design that seems slightly off. Your curiosity kicks in, you research it. You compare images, you learn more, and suddenly that ordinary coin is not so ordinary anymore. That is how discoveries happen, not through luck alone but through awareness. So here is your challenge after this video. Do not just move on, go check your coins. Look at every 2001 quarter you can find, especially those with the P mint mark. Take your time, use good lighting, zoom in if you have to, because the next coin you pick up might not just be spare change. It might be something more, something valuable, something rare, something overlooked, and even if you do not find a fortune, you will gain something just as important. A new perspective. You will start seeing value where others see nothing, and that mindset, that ability to recognize opportunity, is far more powerful than any single coin. So the next time you hear coins jingling in your pocket, do not ignore it. Pay attention, because hidden in that small sound could be a story, a piece of history, or maybe, just maybe, a discovery waiting to be made. And who knows, the journey you start today might lead to something far greater than you ever expected. Have you ever tossed a handful of coins onto your kitchen table and thought absolutely nothing of it? Just loose change, right? A few quarters may be enough for a cup of coffee, a parking meter, or a vending machine snack. But what if I told you that hidden inside that exact same pile of ordinary pocket change, there could be a coin so rare, so unusual, and so valuable that it could completely change your life? We are talking about a single $quarter that could be worth not hundreds, not thousands, but potentially hundreds of thousands, or even close to $1 million. And no, this is not a fantasy, this is not a movie plot. This is the real world of coin collecting, where history, mistakes, and rarity collide to create unbelievable value. Today, we are diving deep into the story of the 2015 $quarter coins and why certain versions of this seemingly ordinary coin have captured the attention of collectors across the United States. By the end of this video, you are going to look at your pocket change very differently, and you might even feel the urge to go check every coin you own, because the next big discovery could be sitting right in your home right now. Let's start with the basics. In 2015, the United States Mint released a series of quarters as part of the America the Beautiful program. These coins were designed to celebrate national parks and historic sites across the country. Each design represents a unique location and carries a piece of American heritage. Some of the 2015 quarters include Homestead National Monument of America, Kisatchie National Forest, Blue Ridge Parkway, Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge, and Saratoga National Historical Park. Millions of these coins were produced and circulated all across the country. At first glance, they all look completely normal, but here is where things start to get interesting. In the world of coin collecting, also known as numismatics, the real value of a coin often comes from what should not have happened. Mistakes, errors, and anomalies during the minting process can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary, and the 2015 quarter is no exception. There are a few specific types of errors that collectors look for: double die errors, where the design appears slightly duplicated; off-center strikes, where the coin design is not aligned properly; clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing; and one of the most talked about in 2015, the so-called leaky bucket effect on the Homestead quarter. If you look closely at the Homestead design, you will see a water pump and a bucket on some coins. Due to dye polishing or other minting variations, the metal creates lines that make it look like water is leaking from the bucket. To the average person, it might look like a small detail or even damage, but to a collector, it can mean the difference between 25 cents and a serious amount of money. Now here is where the hype starts to build. There have been claims online that certain 2015 quarters have reached values close to $1 million. That number sounds incredible, and it definitely grabs attention, but let's break this down honestly. For a coin to reach that level of value, it has to meet extremely strict conditions. It must be incredibly rare, it must have a very strong and visible error, and most importantly, it must be in near-perfect condition, graded by professional organizations. Condition is everything in this world. A coin that has been in circulation, scratched, worn, or damaged loses a huge amount of its potential value, but a coin that has been preserved carefully with sharp details, clean surfaces, and nowhere can command much higher prices. Collectors use grading systems that go all the way up to mint state levels like MS67, MS68, or even higher. These top grades are where the real money is. Now imagine this scenario: a coin leaves the mint with a rare error. It somehow avoids heavy circulation. It gets discovered by someone who recognizes its uniqueness. It is professionally graded and confirmed to be one of the best examples in existence. That is, when the price starts climbing into serious territory, auction houses, private collectors, and investors begin competing for ownership, and suddenly that small piece of metal becomes a high-value asset. This is not something that happens every day. In fact, it is extremely rare, but it does happen, and that possibility is what keeps people searching. It is the idea that something ordinary could become extraordinary, that hidden value exists in plain sight, that history made a mistake, and that mistake could benefit Let's talk a little more about the 2015 Homestead Quarter because it is one of the most talked about coins from that year. The design honors the Homestead Act of 1862, which allowed citizens to claim land and build a future. The image of the cabin, the pump, and the bucket represents self-reliance and opportunity. Ironically, that same coin now represents a modern kind of opportunity for collectors. The leaky bucket effect has become one of the key features people look for, but not every coin with that appearance is valuable. You have to look closely. Is the detail sharp? Is the effect clearly part of the strike rather than damage? Does the coin have a clean surface? Is the mint mark present and clear? These small details matter more than you might think. Another important factor is where the coin was minted. In the United States, coins can be produced at different facilities such as Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint location is marked with a small letter on the coin: P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, S for San Francisco. Sometimes certain errors are more common at one mint than another, and sometimes a rare combination of mint mark and error can increase value. Now let's address the big question: should you run to your coin jar right now and expect to find $1 million quarter? The honest answer is probably not, but that does not mean it is impossible. What it means is that you need knowledge, patience, and attention to detail. Most people never look at their coins closely. They spend them without a second thought. They ignore the tiny details that could reveal something unusual. That is where the opportunity lies, not in luck alone but in awareness. If you start paying attention, you already have an advantage over millions of people. You begin to see what others overlook. You begin to understand that value is not always obvious, and that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest potential. There is also a growing market for rare coins. In the United States, collectors are constantly searching for unique pieces to add to their collections. Investors are looking for tangible assets that hold value over time, and auction houses are seeing increasing demand for rare and high-grade coins. This creates an environment where special coins can command impressive prices, but again, it all comes back to rarity and condition. Without those two factors, even the most interesting coin will not reach high-value levels. So what should you actually do after watching this video? Start simple. Take a look at your coins. Separate your quarters, especially from 2015. Examine them under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass. If you have one, look for anything unusual. Check the designs, check the edges, check the mint marks. If something stands out, do not rush to conclusions. Research it, compare it with verified examples. And if it truly looks promising, consider getting it evaluated by a professional. This is how real discoveries happen, not through hype, not through assumptions, but through careful observation and verification. And here is something important to remember: even if you do not find $1 million coin, you are still learning something valuable. You are learning about history, craftsmanship, and attention to detail. You are developing a skill that most people do not have, and who knows where that could lead, because every expert collector started as a beginner looking at their first coin. Now, let me ask you something. When you hear the sound of coins in your pocket or see them sitting in a jar on your shelf, what do you feel? Do you see loose change, or do you see potential? Because sometimes the difference between the two is simply knowledge, and now you have a little more of it. The next time you pick up a quarter, take a second look, flip it over, examine it closely, think about where it came from, how it was made, and whether it might be something more than just 25 cents, because hidden within the ordinary there is always the possibility of something extraordinary, and maybe, just maybe, one day that possibility will turn into reality for you. So go ahead, check your change, take your time, look closely, and remember that every great discovery starts with curiosity, and your next discovery could be closer than you think.